due to mature content. Viewer discretion is advised.
I think she just wanted to do it her way. And her way was to do it right now.
Her job was to do private dances for those that called. And as a 17-year-old, that, and from my perspective, would be a really difficult way to live.
It was a violent crime, probably fairly quick attack that took place beside that building. She was simply overwhelmed, and then a body was concealed and remained there for approximately 7 days until it was discovered.
A girl interrupted. The case of Beth Ellen Vinson. Tonight's NC Mystery. Also tonight, help track this Vietnamese national who executed a man in broad daylight. NC Wanted in high definition starts now.
Good evening, I'm Gerald Owens. Welcome to another edition of NC Wanted. Tonight we take on the unsolved murder of Beth Ellen Vinson, a striking 17-year-old beauty queen and dancer who moved to Raleigh with dreams of making it big on Broadway. But what happened to her was a nightmare. Tonight you'll discover the chilling details that have haunted investigators for years. But before we get to that, we want to give you the latest on a savage armed robbery that happened recently in Warren County.
Warren County 911, Fish Emergency?
Yes, there's been a killing, a murder at Papa's Country Store on the Highway 401 South.
A week ago Friday, around 9:15 p.m., three heavily armed men wearing masks, gloves, and dark clothing stormed Papa's Country Store and Grill off 401 South in Warrenton. Surveillance video shows the first suspect running behind the counter, pointing a sawed-off shotgun directly at the clerk, 41-year-old Randy Terrell of Lewisburg. In a flash, the clerk reached for the shotgun. The suspect fired and missed. A second suspect fired his weapon, killing Terrell right there in the store. The suspects rifled through the counters and shelves, stealing cash and the owner's .25 caliber pistol, then ran out into the night. A disabled man sitting inside the store at the time made his way next door and got the resident to call 911. Earlier this week, family and friends buried store clerk Randy Terrell, who was only filling in that night. This was a senseless and horrific crime. Tonight, you can help police put these suspects away. Investigators say the first suspect is in his early 20s, about 5'7". The other two are said to be in their 20s, approximately 5'10" to 6 feet tall. There is a reward up to $12,000 for information leading to their arrest and conviction. If you know anything about this crime, call us toll-free at 1-866-43-WANTED or log on to our website at ncwanted.com. You don't have to reveal your identity. Now, many murders take place inside or behind closed doors, but this next attack occurred in broad daylight and in front of witnesses. It happened over a decade ago, and Raleigh police are still looking for the suspect. His name is Phu Tan Nguyen, a Vietnamese national who police say shot someone he knew, then left him to die. On this mild winter day in Raleigh, 22-year-old Trey Ton Do decides to visit a nearby Vietnamese restaurant to meet up with an acquaintance. He has no idea this rendezvous is about to go terribly wrong. Around 2:30 in the afternoon on February 10, 1996, Do arrives at the Saigon restaurant off New Hope Church Road in Raleigh. Not long after he is seated, in strolls his acquaintance, 21-year-old Phu Tan Nguyen, along with some of his friends. For whatever reason, someone says or does something that sends tempers flaring. Do and Nguyen erupt into a heated argument, attracting the attention of people inside the restaurant. Furious, Nguyen and his buddies take things outside. This gives Do a reprieve from the altercation. He finishes up and heads back to his car. This proves to be his final act. Eyewitnesses say as Do walks to his car, Nguyen comes out of nowhere, pulls a gun, and executes him right there in the parking lot. Witnesses watch in horror as the victim collapses before their very eyes. Nguyen and his accomplices leave the scene in a black 1992 four-door Honda. This is the last time anyone reports seeing Phu Tan Nguyen in the Raleigh area. At the time of this murder in 1996, police tell us Wynn was living on Sierra Drive in Raleigh. This is where investigators found that black Honda. Wynn is a common Vietnamese name, spelled Nguyen. Many pronounce it Wynn, while some say Noon. Police say this man has family in Raleigh and could still be in our area using an alias. He has a slight build at 5'5" and 120 pounds. Tonight, a reward is waiting for the person with information leading to his arrest. If you know anything about Phu Tan Nguyen, his whereabouts, or details about this Raleigh murder, call us now, toll-free at 1-866-43-WANTED, or log on to our website at ncwanted.com. You don't have to give us your name. The fugitives who make our Target 10 list come from all walks of life. This next fugitive takes the prize for having the most education. His name is Robert Trent Berkey, and he has strong ties to the Sanford area. In the 1990s, Berkey left the area to study chemistry and psychology. He was a research assistant at Appalachian State University, attended graduate school at Texas A&M, and eventually became the department chair of psychology at Emory and Henry College in Virginia. Tonight, this man of higher education is wanted for low and despicable acts against children. In late 2001, Berkey is divorced and his ex-wife is dying of cancer. He meets a new woman online, and it isn't long before they meet in person and move in together. At this time, Berkey has a 6-year-old son, while his new internet girlfriend has 2 daughters. Within months, the older daughter tells her mother that Berkey has been touching her in inappropriate ways. Before long, the younger daughter tells of more incidents of touching. This prompts the mother to call authorities and move out, taking her daughters with her. On June 2, 2002, Berkey is arrested on 2 counts of aggravated sexual assault of a child. They search his computer and find evidence that leads to 5 counts of possession of child pornography. Berkey posts bond right away and somehow convinces his girlfriend to reconsider their relationship. Meanwhile, Berkey's ex-wife dies of cancer, and he's able to collect on her life insurance policy. Berkey now sees a way out. He stockpiles more cash by withdrawing his life savings. Then, just before his trial is to begin, Berkey leaves a note to his girlfriend, his parents, and his employer, saying he couldn't face the charges, so he was leaving and no one would ever find him. Authorities tell us that's the last anyone has heard from Robert Berkey, but he was very close to his son and may have figured out ways to contact him. The son lives with Berkey's father in the Sanford area. His family owns a vacation home in the ski and golf community of Seven Devils near Boone. Berkey has a distinctive dimple in his chin. Some say he may walk with a limp. He takes medicine for depression and high blood pressure. Tonight, there's a reward for information leading to his arrest and conviction. If you have any information or know the whereabouts of Robert Trent Berkey, call us right now at 1-866-43-WANTED or log on to our website at ncwanted.com. You don't have to reveal your identity.
Coming up, a stunning 17-year-old rebels against her small-town life and joins a Raleigh escort service.
It was like she had finally desecrated everything that we stood for.
Then, the unthinkable.
You had a victim that was basically a high-risk victim. She was out alone, vulnerable, in the middle of the night.
I just couldn't face that Beth Ellen was dead.
It's the tragic tale of a girl interrupted. The case of Beth Ellen Vinson. Tonight's NC Mystery is next.
Welcome back to NC Wanted. I'm Gerald Owens. Tonight we begin a 2-part journey that retraces the path of a beautiful young girl from Goldsboro. She was just 17, but in the summer of 1994, Beth Ellen Vinson decided to leave the safety of her home and family. She made Raleigh her first stop. There she would bide time, make a little money, then launch herself to New York, where she would fulfill her dream of dancing on Broadway. But her first stop became her last. And even though it's been 13 years, investigators and family members are still haunted by what happened to this headstrong girl with talent, promise, and an unfulfilled dream.
She wanted to be famous and then die young. So she had already made her plans, but we were hoping she'd grow old.
She was really a very unique child. She wouldn't walk through the den. she'd have to plie through the den, you know. And every night after dance class, if she would learn a new step, she would take me out back on the patio, perform that new step.
She'd have to show Daddy her new step.
Beth Ellen Vinson is a dancer, a small-town beauty queen with big plans. It's the summer of 1994, and she's approaching her senior year in high school, but she's growing impatient. Beth Ellen has dreamed of fame on Broadway for as long as she can remember, and Goldsboro can no longer hold her. On a sunny afternoon in early July, she walks out of the house and doesn't look back.
So I was sitting on the hearth in front of the fireplace, and she'd gotten some of her things, and she said, "I'm leaving." And I said, "You're making the biggest mistake of your life." And she said, "I might be, Mama, but I have to go."
Beth Ellen's dreams of making it on her own are short-lived. 6 weeks after she moves to Raleigh, police knock on the Vinsons' door. Their daughter's car was found abandoned, blocking the entrance to a car dealership with the radio blaring and the window rolled down. The only sign of Beth Ellen was a right shoe lying on the floorboard.
As the day wore on, it became fairly obvious that there was more involved than simply somebody who had left their car somewhere, that there was probably some foul play involved. And by the time I came in at 3 o'clock, there was kind of a feeling that was starting to swell that there was more to the case than just a missing girl.
What could have happened? Why she could have left her car? Could she have gone to New York or something? That was our thread, I think, of hope. All her dance stuff was in her car, and everything was right there.
All of her clothes.
So that was a terrible week.
Already reeling from their daughter's disappearance, Bill and Penny Vinson discovered Beth Ellen has been working for an escort service. She told them she was working at a grocery store, but that was a lie. After moving to Raleigh, Beth Ellen claimed she was 18 and signed on at the Class Act escort service out of Virginia Beach. She hoped to quickly save enough money to move to New York City.
Her job was to do private dances for those that called. And as a 17-year-old, that, and from my perspective, would be a really difficult way to live.
I was devastated. I couldn't believe it. I tried to picture my daughter doing that, and the picture wouldn't focus. It was like she had finally desecrated everything that we stood for. You know, finally, she has stepped on across the line, that she has said to me, "All the things that you find holy are for nothing."
The week she's missing, it rains nearly every day, and temperatures top 90 degrees. Investigators search for any sign of Beth Ellen and prepare to dredge a nearby creek. Exactly 1 week later, a businessman makes a gruesome discovery on his way to work.
I think she was a major on the police force. Told her who I was and what I wanted to know, and she said, "Mr. Vinson, I don't know how to tell you this," she said, "but we have just found a body." I said, "Well, could I see her? Could I identify her?" And they said, "No, her body is so badly decomposed that we don't think you'd like to see her. And even if it was her, you probably couldn't recognize her anyway."
The evidence at the crime scene indicated that she was stabbed repeatedly, everywhere, violently stabbed.
This is kind of a cloudy time for me the next few days. I just couldn't believe it. It was just beyond the realm of comprehension for me. I just couldn't face that Beth Ellen was dead.
Investigators gradually pieced together Beth Ellen's last night alive. She's watching a movie with her boyfriend when the escort service calls her in the early morning hours of August 16th.
Hello?
The client is a man staying at the Innkeeper Motel on Capitol Boulevard. Beth Ellen had told the service not to call so late, but her roommates are hassling her about the phone bill and the rent is due soon. She leaves shortly after 2 a.m.
The last time she left that apartment, the intended purpose was to drive to the Innkeeper Hotel to visit the subject at room 118.
Her car is found about 1.5 miles from the motel. The client she was going to visit, a middle-aged man from Myrtle Beach, was on a binge of drinking, drugs, and prostitutes. In the early stages of the investigation, he can't tell police for sure whether he's ever seen Beth Ellen Vinson.
So please welcome our stars and our reigning queen, Miss Beth Ellen Vinson.
A young girl leaves home angry at her parents and determined to be a star. Beth Ellen Vinson, a dance champion and beauty queen, takes a job with an escort service, and within 6 weeks is found brutally stabbed and left to die in a ditch.
Well, she knew no fear, because she was always taken care of. She didn't know what reality was all about. And I guess that's our fault.
Yeah.
But in the initial stages of the investigation, there were pretty much two prime targets of the investigation, and they were the person that she had left and the person that she was going to see. A complication to the case initially was the fact that that individual had called a number of services and had interacted with a number of different females that night.
There's a period of my daughter's life that's missing, and it's the time she left at 2 o'clock in the morning to go to this place, and then her car's found at 5:30 or 6 o'clock the next morning.
You had a victim that was basically a high-risk victim. She was out alone, vulnerable, in the middle of the night, and interacted with somebody who was not what they appeared to be to the victim. And they took advantage of that vulnerability, and they seized that moment, and they killed her.
Beth Ellen moves to Raleigh with little more than a car full of clothes and a job. She stays with Ricky Heath, a relative of her best friend. He's a 21-year-old student at NC State and also from Goldsboro. The relationship moves fast, and within weeks, Heath is telling his family he has found his soulmate. He and Beth Ellen are alone together in the apartment before she leaves. So, as far as police know, Heath was the only person who knew where Beth Ellen was going. Meanwhile, the client at the motel is looking increasingly suspicious.
It could have been the boyfriend because the boyfriend did this, or the boyfriend acted like that, or he said this, and that's really strange. Or it could be the guy at the hotel because he did this, or he has this in his history, or now he's living somewhere else and he's done that. And there's any number of things you can speculate about, but the reality of it is that you have to come back to the evidence.
It takes cross-country interviews and countless hours going over statements and search warrants, but months into the investigation, detectives finally conclude that Beth Ellen never made it to the motel that night.
So the emphasis then went to the boyfriend.
She would not have stopped for somebody she didn't know. She would not have pulled over into a parking lot to stop for somebody she didn't know. And she would not have left the door open, the radio playing, and a shoe in the car if she hadn't been taken from that car.
No one disputes that Beth Ellen Vinson was the victim of foul play, but investigators are in dispute over who actually did it. Was it the boyfriend? Was it someone she knew from her escort work? Or was it a random mugging or abduction that went too far? Tonight, here's what we do know. The murder of Beth Ellen Vinson remains one of the biggest unsolved cases that Raleigh police have ever faced. After 13 years, investigators have exhausted every solid lead that's come their way. The key to breaking this case is for someone to come forward with information. It takes just one person to provide a valuable tip. Tonight, perhaps that person is you. If you know anything about the murder of Beth Ellen Vinson, call us right now, toll-free at 1-866-43-WANTED, or log on to our website at ncwanted.com and click on Report a Tip. Either way, you can remain anonymous. Now, stay with us. We'll be back to recap tonight's cases and tell you what you can expect next week in part 2 of our series on the unsolved murder of Beth Ellen Vinson. Stay with us. Welcome back to NC Wanted. Time now to recap tonight's cases. Authorities in Warren County are still looking for 3 men who shot and killed a convenience store clerk in a savage armed robbery at Papa's Country Store and Grill in Warrenton. All 3 are described as black men wearing masks, gloves, and dark clothing at the time. Investigators say the first suspect is in his early 20s, about 5'6" to 5'7". The other 2 are in their late 20s to early 30s, about 5'10" to 6 feet tall. There is up to a $12,000 reward for information leading to their arrest and conviction. Next, he's the Vietnamese national who police say executed someone he knew and left him to die in a parking lot. This happened on February 10, 1996, in a small shopping center on New Hope Church Road in Raleigh. The fugitive's name is Phu Tan Nguyen. If he's still in our area, Raleigh police tell us he may be using an alias. Nguyen has a slight build at 5'5" and 120 pounds. There is also a reward for information leading to his capture. Also, he's a highly educated man who was wanted for aggravated sexual assault and possession of child pornography. Authorities say Robert Trent Berkey was very close to his son, who now lives with Berkey's father in Sanford. Berkey has a distinctive dimple in his chin and may walk with a slight limp. And next week, be sure to join us as we dig deeper into the mysterious murder of Beth Ellen Vinson. We'll follow along as she makes her fateful drive to that motel to meet her escort appointment. We'll retrace her final moments alive as she fights in vain against her attacker. We'll also take a closer look at Beth Ellen's boyfriend and hear from 2 investigators with starkly different views as to who killed this young beauty queen. If you have any information about tonight's cases, call us now toll-free at 1-866-43-WANTED or log on to our website at ncwanted.com. As always, you don't have to give us your name. Remember, we can fight to preserve the quality of life we hold dear in North Carolina. We'll see you next week. I'm Gerald Owens. Thanks for watching.